Welcome to Trouble with Tish. I'm Tish and I be Trouble. And if you are a returner, welcome back. For this video, we have Mask Monday. So stick around and check out what we got going on.
Troubles on the mind, hands around your throat, out in open waters trying to stay afloat. Remember to forget the future and the past.
Alright, like I said, it is Mask Monday and we have chapter 5 of The Rise of the Deva'shi, The Chronicles of Partholon, and it is by Jennifer Alice Provost. This is a collaboration with Beauty Ninjas. I will have a playlist linked below in the description box. Go check out all the rest of the lovely ladies and see what they have going on for their Mask Mondays. Today we have the, whatever this is. It's a tomato mask, right? Brightening, hydrating, antioxidant. Sounds good to me. So let me get this on and I will be back. Alright, like I said, we are on chapter 5. The next morning, I awoke before first dawn to a gentle touch on my cheek. I opened my eyes to see Ashera crouching next to me, clad in simple green riding gear. "Dress quickly, child," she said, "and meet me outside." I did, and in front of the Sola I found the queen mounted on a glorious black mare with its twin beside her. As I admired the horses, Ashera stated that she had chosen to begin the second phase of my training right away. I mounted the dark mare, and we walked the horses down the main road from the castle. The queen did not seem to be in any sort of a hurry, and I enjoyed the leisurely pace. As a Nuvi, I rarely had occasion to leave Tegernon, and while I did spend a great deal of time in the arena, I loved being outside the palace walls. I breathed deeply, enjoying the crisp, clean air, and closed my eyes following the queen by the sound of her mount's hoofs. After we had ridden in silence for a time, the queen slowed her pace, and as I sidled up next to her mare, she turned to me. "Elmar tells me you are the best Nuvi he has yet encountered," said the queen. "Have you enjoyed your training thus far?" "Yes, my lady," I replied. "You seem to have taken to it well," she said, and I agreed that life in the Sola suited me. "Do you miss your life in Brennus?" "I miss Ingvar and Alma, but I do not miss working as a stable hand. I thought of all the times the inn had been full, and I had to move out and sleep in the stable, just my horses and me. I remembered all the travelers who had commented on the unusual arrangement, and how some wondered if I was addle-brained, and the innkeeper only cared for me out of charity. We followed the road to the hill of Torum, and once we reached its crest, we turned to regard the palace. After a time, Ashera told me about Torum, her dear friend who helped her overthrow the royal house. As Ashera's legion launched its final offensive against Tegernon, a sorcerer who Ashera thought was on her side began gathering magic to himself in order to strike her down. Torum realized what was happening and threw herself on the sorcerer, killing him as he released the deadly spell. As she absorbed the evil meant for Ashera, noble Torum died in her arms, having saved the future queen and all of Partholon. Ashera showed me a gnarled old tree which marked the very spot where Torum had committed her last act of bravery. The queen and I were silent for a moment as we contemplated the tree and the significance of Torum's sacrifice. "I love Partholon," Ashera said quietly. "I would give my life to defend it, just as Torum gave hers to defend me. I need to know if you feel the same." I looked from the queen to the palace, then cast my eyes across the plain. "Partholon has become my home. I will not allow it to be overrun by evil." Ashera smiled. "Good. Elmar has told you that he desires you to be named?" I nodded, still uncomfortable with the notion of my being named before the others. "There is much to teach you in so short a time. I have been told that you can already create fire, but I need to see what kind of tracker you are." We traveled the length and breadth of Partholon in those 2 seasons, and Ashera taught me things I never would have learned in the Sola. She showed me the locations of historic battles and explained what went well or poorly. I learned where demons had infiltrated before, where they were likely to hide, and how to flush them out. The queen bestowed upon me all of her knowledge as a huntress, and I soaked it up like a sponge. Toward the spring, I asked the queen if she had ever known another like me, a human, who had somehow come to Fairy. I had come across very few humans in the 7 winters since my abduction, and I wondered if we had all come to Partholon in the same manner. I also wondered why the other humans had retained their mortal characteristics while my appearance had changed so dramatically. I have known quite a few humans to arrive in my land, one way or another, she replied. And you are right, I have never known another whose appearance changed from that of a mortal to fey. I once knew a human who had been here much longer than you, well over a century, and he only ever looked like a human. Over a century? I asked. How was that possible? She smiled indulgently, for the queen was one of the few who appreciated my inquisitive nature. That is something else I cannot answer for you. While this realm will choose to alter the appearance of one and not another is a question for a sorcerer, not a simple queen like me. But I will say that for you to look like one of us, you must have been magical to begin with. I pondered her words for a moment. I reached back to the depths of my memory and could not remember anything the least bit magical about my upbringing or my family, and I decided that any magic about me must have occurred when the horrible old woman dragged me to this realm. I was still lost in thought when Ashera continued. Would you like me to speak to my sorcerer to see if you can be returned to your home? She asked. I did not hesitate in my reply. No. I may not be from this realm, but I have become a Parthian, and I will remain in your service as long as you'll have me. A look of relief crossed the queen's face. Litera, your words have made me very happy. Of course, if you ever decide otherwise, I will speak to my magic handlers, but it pleases me to no end that you'll consider my land your home. I smiled at my queen, grateful for her kind words. Near midsummer, the queen and I rode to the north, 2 days out of Tegernon, with the intent of making camp at the edge of the wide river. As she always did, Ashera had me choose the site as one that offered an easy defense should an attack occur. Once the location was set, she immediately began setting up our tent, and it never ceased to amaze me that this beautiful queen was as adept as any trained woodsman. Whenever I tried to do something for her, she reminded me that she was quite low-born herself, and one does not become a queen by not wanting to get one's hands dirty. She opened her mouth to continue, but stopped when she saw me staring at a small furrow in the ground. It was a small depression, hardly as deep as the width of my finger, but it was there nonetheless. I motioned for her to follow me, and I tracked the depressions through the trees, only to discover a vast encampment of demons. The area was enormous, the size alone telling us that it must have been established some time ago. We hastily retreated into the trees, amazed by what we had witnessed. No one knew this was here, Ashera whispered. I have not seen them so bold in over a century. How many are there? I asked, trying to think of what to do. I counted 4 wooden domes, some tents, and I saw at least 12 milling about, she replied. There are too many for you and I to engage, and we do not know how many are inside the domes. I understood her hesitation, yet I could not leave that vermin to defile our soil any longer. I looked up at the elder son and gauged what time it was. My queen, forgive me for asking, but you can also create fire? I asked. Yes, of course, she replied. Why don't we burn them? I asked. The wooden domes seemed to be old and dry. They should burn quickly, and if we manage to remain hidden, they will flee the fire and think this place is cursed, barring their return. Ashera grinned wickedly, and I could see a touch of the ruthless in her eyes. Yes, that is what we will do. Night fell, and we waited until the encampment was silent. Ashera and I stealthily approached 2 of the domes, and as we whispered a few words, flames began to lick around the rough planks. We set the other 2 alight and then hastily retreated to the trees and watched our plan play out. The farthest dome burnt the brightest, and we heard blood-curdling calls emanate from within as the demons burned alive. Ashera saw that many were attempting to escape through the break in the trees, and she called for fire to block their path. The demons continued to shriek in terror, and the queen laughed at their plight. The numbers are more to my liking now, she said as she drew her sword. Let's be sure they never return here. We ran into the center of the encampment, not fearing the blaze, as our own fire could not burn us. Ashera and I swung our swords wildly and dispatched anything bearing claws or teeth. Once all were dead by fire or blade, I turned to my queen. Are you hurt? I asked. She shook her head and asked if I was also unhurt, which I said I was. I can see why they call you Kshoie the Ruthless." She leaned on her sword as she panted. "Do they still call me that?" she asked. "I have been called many things in my long life, and I dare say that is a compliment." We extinguished the fires that smoldered about the carnage, as we certainly did not want the surrounding forest to go up in flames. Once we had returned to our camp, and the tent we never did erect, the Queen solemnly took my hand. "Latera, you have completed your trial by stealth," she declared. I could hardly contain my shock at her words. "I thought you needed to set up the trial. This was just something we happened upon." "You found the tracks, you followed them to their camp, you found a veritable city of demons, and now it is no more." She beamed at me, just as Elmar had the day he asked Ingvar if he could bring me to Tegurnen, and when he introduced me to Herrick. "The trial is past, my huntress." I answered her with a grin of my own, being so overcome words would not come to me. "There is one thing I would ask of you, my lady," I said, when my mouth finally remembered how to speak. "Anything, you have but to name it." "We have only been training for a short time, but I feel that I have so much more to learn," I said. "Must it end now?" I do not know how Elmar found one so suited to this life in a stable, she said, happily bewildered by my request. "I have come to enjoy our time together as well. Yes, we will continue to train together until you are named in the autumn." We continued to traverse the countryside until the end of summer. I did not know if Kshoie had made it known that I had completed the trial by stealth, although everyone seemed to know about the burning of the demon village. But, as she was the queen, I imagined she did not have to inform anyone other than Elmar. On the last day of summer, we again rode to the burnt-out encampment and surveyed our handiwork. As we picked our way through the ruined camp, I could already feel autumn's chill in the air. "You may leave the Sola tomorrow," Kshoie said. "I have chosen rooms for you that are near my own." "I am to have a room in the palace?" I asked. "Yes, all the hunters have rooms in the southern tower, even those not assigned to the palace." "Did you think you were to remain in the Sola?" she asked. And I admitted that I had not given much thought to my fate after my naming. When Elmar asked me if I wanted to train to be a hunter, I assumed it would last many winters, not 4 short seasons. I had come to enjoy the camaraderie in the Sola, and I had never had any friends in Brennus other than Ingvar and Elma. "Thank you, my queen," I said. "You are very kind to me. But won't the room be wasted if I am to be assigned to the border?" All new hunters sent to one of the border contingents once they were named. The borders were harsh and inhospitable, with the exception of for the western border, which comprised quiet meadows and verdant hills, and life at the remaining 3 was anything but pleasant. Once they completed their allotted time, the hunters normally moved to another contingent or took other less arduous positions in service of the queen. Kshoie gazed out over the burnt remains as she responded to me. "Latera, it is very lonely to be queen. There are very few whom I can truly confide in as a friend. When I first met you, I sensed that you are somehow kindred to me, and you have not proven me wrong. I can speak to you as an equal, and while you have shown me nothing but respect, you have also shown me friendship. You are not afraid to question when I say, and you always answer me as truthfully as your heart allows, where others only tell me what they think I want to hear. I know it is odd, me with my great age and you being so young, but I believe you have an old soul, and I have known you in my entire life. Therefore I have decided that you will stay in Tegurnen. It is a selfish decision on my part, but as the queen, I am allowed to indulge myself occasionally." I bowed my head in respect to my gracious, kind queen, whom I also called friend. Words cannot express my gratitude. I have treasured our time together, and I am glad that you have enjoyed my company as well. I wrestled with whether or not to ask my next question, and decided that if Kshoie truly valued honest communication, I could safely broach the subject. "The palace contingent is led by Elmar, is it not?" "Yes, it is," she replied. "He also requested that you remain in Tegurnen." I pondered her statement as I watched the clouds float across the sky. I could not understand why he would break with tradition and allow me to remain in Tegurnen, when one's time at the border was clearly intended to test one's resolve at being a hunter, and to determine if one could thrive in unfavorable conditions. An assignment to the palace was a reward for many years of faithful service, not for one fresh from the Sola. Did he say why I was to remain? I asked. She raised an eyebrow at my inquiry. I did not question his intentions, she replied. Would you like me to? No, I said as I shook my head. I will have to ask him myself. The next day, Ashera sent a Saphira to show me to my new rooms. I brought Aaliyah with me, after extracting a promise from her that nothing would change between us and we would remain just as close no matter what rooms we were in. She immediately agreed, promising that she would make herself available to the point of being a nuisance. As we entered my glorious new chamber, we both gasped in amazement. Aaliyah remarked that there were no such chambers in her father's home, and I remarked that I, being a king's daughter, had also never seen a room so fine. My rooms consisted of a wide open space with 3 arched doorways leading to a balcony on the left. To the right was a large sleeping platform which was several steps above the main level and piled high with furs and cushions. The walls were covered with dark blue and gold mosaic tiles that extended up to the vaulted ceiling, and many ornate metal lanterns hung from sturdy chains. In the rear of the room was a large sunken bath fed by the hot springs that ran under the palace. At the far end of the basin, a spout poured steaming water into the bath, with steps opposite, allowing you to walk in and submerge yourself. Aaliyah and I aimlessly wandered about the chamber, entranced by all we were seeing. Do all the hunters obtain rooms this wonderful? I asked. I certainly hope so, Aaliyah replied. When may I partake of your bath? I suddenly find bathing in the Sola beneath me, she laughed, as she reached down and splashed me with the steaming water. Never, if this is the way you will behave, I replied as I darted out of her reach. I looked around the room and began asking her where I should put certain things when Aaliyah looked over my shoulder and gave me a knowing glance. I think I will leave you now, she said, through her smirk, and I followed her gaze to see the first hunter standing in the doorway. Aaliyah gave him a respectful nod as she passed him and then shut the door behind her. What do you think? I asked as I spread my arms wide. Isn't this room grand? I cannot believe I am to live here. It's quite a change from the Sola, he said as he looked around. Ashera certainly favors you. These rooms are larger than my own. I did not know how to respond to that, so I bowed my head. I suppose she does. She is very kind to me. You will be named tomorrow at second dawn. Are you prepared? He asked. I have been trained well. I am as prepared as one could be, was my truthful response. He favored me with one of his rare smiles. Good. You have shown me that my faith in you was not misguided. Thank you, I said. It meant so much to me to please him, to prove that he was right about me, and I did not know if those 2 simple words could adequately express my gratitude. Aylmar was the first person to ever have any sort of expectations for me. In Canara, I was merely expected to be pretty and docile, as any good princess should. And Elma and Ingvar never pushed me to do anything more than care for the horses, and I honestly don't think they would have minded if I reduced myself to peeling vegetables. But Aylmar had shown me that I could be more than I was, more than a vapid princess or a grubby stable hand, and I did not know if I could ever fully explain my sincere appreciation for his faith in me. He held on to my gaze for a moment, those blue eyes searching for something, but he did not say what, before he walked to the balcony and placed his hands on the stone rail. I followed him, and we stood together for a time, regarding the bustle of the courtyard below. The Queen has told me that I am being assigned to the palace contingent? I asked. Yes, that is correct, he replied. Why am I not being sent to one of the borders? Aren't all new hunters sent to one? I needed to understand why he would break with tradition by keeping me in Tegernen. Would you prefer the border? It is a rare privilege to guard the Queen. He did not turn to look at me, but his shoulders became tense as he answered my question. Despite his demeanor, I pressed onward. What of Adhair? I asked. While I did not think it was fair for me to be named before Adhair, I had not meant to bring it up with Aylmar, certainly not today. Nevertheless, the words were already spoken, and I could not take them back. What of him? He snapped, turning to face me at last. I was taken aback by the roughness of his response. It's not his fault he didn't complete the trial in Brennus, I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. He feels slighted by fate. Adhair feels slighted by many things, he said sternly. You worry too much for him. I implore you, my lord, he deserves to be named, I continued against my better judgment. I also called him my lord against my better judgment, for I knew how much he disliked it when I addressed him by anything other than his name. At the same time, I began to wonder if it was wise to continue on this path. While I had wanted answers, I had not wanted to anger him, but his responses were causing my own anger to grow. Do you ask this of me to keep him near you? So you two may patrol the border together? His voice was so harsh he practically spat the words at me. Why do you always ask if I want him near me? He's my friend, my fellow Nuvi. I want for him the same I would want for Aaliyah, I replied, my tone showing my irritation with him. You do not ask me to name Aaliyah, only Adhair. He stared as if he was challenging me, and his eyes were as hard as his voice. I was incensed with him, and my anger got the better of my tongue, and I could not stop myself from lashing out at him. What business is it of yours if I do want him near me? You are just as infuriating as he is, I yelled. His astonished expression told me that he was shocked by my outburst, which I instantly regretted. I am sorry, I said evenly. I spoke out of turn. Forgive me if I have said something to offend you. I turned away from Elmar and stared straight ahead at nothing in particular. While I had offered an apology, which was my duty, I wished he would leave me alone. He was being completely unreasonable. I only wanted him to consider the possibility of naming Adhair, and he was twisting my request around into something entirely different. My knuckles turned white where I gripped the stone wall, and I tried to relax my hands before he noticed. I did not want him to know the extent to which he bothered me. I made up my mind that I would not be the next to speak and considered walking away, leaving him alone with his ridiculous notions. After I had fumed for a few moments, Elmar gently touched my hand. I was so astonished by the soft gesture, I jumped. I'm not angry with you, but with myself, he said quietly. I still looked straight ahead, determined to ignore him as long as possible. Latera, look at me, he said. I turned back to him, and the anger was indeed gone from his face. I will speak to the Queen about Adhair, but I make no promises. It's Ashera that chooses the hunters, not me. Thank you for hearing my request, I said, and I was again genuinely grateful for his words. I fear I can deny you nothing, he replied with a small sigh. I offered him an appreciative smile. Then I will be sure to make my requests important. We remained on the balcony for a time and watched the activity below us. Elmar commented that he remembered when no one but the hunters attended a naming, and now all of Partholon looked forward to the event. I told him that there was nothing in Ganera that would cause the entire land to be invited, and even if there was, most probably would not attend. He asked why, and I told him that Parthians as a whole seemed much more loyal to their land and their queen than the citizens of Ganera. Ganerans paid their taxes and bowed to my father when appropriate, but they did not exhibit such pride in their homeland. The first hunter thought that was indeed odd, as he was brought up to value his home above almost everything else. Once I was confident that his mood had brightened, I again tried to find answers to my lingering concerns. My lord, I began, but he held up his hand. I have told you. You do not need to call me that, especially when we are alone, he said. Very well, Elmar. He smiled when I said his name. I do not want to make you angry, but please explain why you always question me about Adhair. The troubled look returned to his face. I know what he is like, and you deserve better. I can take care of myself in these matters, I said gently. I have no doubt, but that doesn't mean I cannot offer you advice. I thought that he was not offering me advice. He was telling me with whom to associate. Rather than say this directly, I tried a softer approach. You will assign him to the border if he is named? Yes, he said flatly. When he saw my questioning look, he added, With you added to Tegernan contingent, there are 10. There is no room for him here. Is that the only reason? I asked. Would you like it to be the only reason? He countered. We had barely resumed our contest of wills when Elmar threw up his hands in defeat. "I do not wish to argue with you," he said. "Please, I will fight with you again tomorrow, but no more today." I smiled at him, for he had finally answered me. "As you wish," I said, and we remained on the balcony together until the elder sun set, sharing a silence that was no longer awkward, but more of a comfort. That is the end of chapter 5, and next time around we will do chapter 6. I love this book. The idea to read something was an idea that my dear friend Sue floated past me, and I am thankful to her because now I get to share something that tickles me with all of you. Another reason I chose this book is that it's the Chronicles of Partholon. This is the first of 3 books. So if I can get through this book, I got 2 more back there waiting. Because I'm the type of person, I gotta know what's next. There is never an end to a story. There's only a pause. And the end of a book is where you pause. To me, there's always more. It's kind of like just because you finished your journey does not mean there's not anything after the journey. There's always something else. And I always want to know. So I always read books that have more than their series. I always read things that have another book to come and another book, the more books the better. Harry Potter, literally my whole jam. They're like my blankie books. That's what I call them. They're my blankie books. And they just make me feel better to read them. So I'm glad that I get to share one of my passions with you all. Anyways, like I said at the beginning, this is a collab with the Beauty Ninjas. The playlist for the other beautiful ladies is down below in the description box. Go check them out. Go send them some love. Go see what they got going on. And leave them an awesome comment. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe here. All that stuff is below as well. I hope every single one of you has an absolutely amazing day. And I will see you all next time after I take off my mask. Bye.
Troubles on the mind, hands around your throat, out in open waters trying to stay afloat. Remember to forget the future and the